administration let in 20 million unknown and unvetted foreigners from all over the world, from places that you don't want to even know about. No country can tolerate such a risk to our very survival. An example is Minnesota, where hundreds of thousands of Somalians are ripping off our country and ripping apart that once great state. Billions of dollars are lost, and gangs of Somalians come from a country that doesn't even have a government, no laws, no water, no military, no nothing. As their representatives in our country preach to us about our Constitution and how our country is no good. We're not going to put up with these kind of assaults on law and order by people who shouldn't even be in our country. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden, and we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them. America will never bend and never yield in the face of terror.
And since Donald Trump took office again in 2025, border crossings, once sky high with a limited military footprint, have plunged 93% thanks to a surge in troops. Refugee and asylum flows, which ticked along steadily before, are now at a standstill. Arrivals have halted cold and Afghan processing locked down tight. Deportations have gone from routine yearly roundups to mass operations, with over 2 million self-deportations as fear drives people out. Even legal pathways feel the squeeze. H-1B visas now carry a $100,000 fee that is out of reach for many, and student visas have dropped 25% amid stricter scrutiny. For India, it has upended the American dream for thousands of families who've built lives across the ocean. Back in January, Trump's birthright citizenship order tried to end automatic status for kids of non-citizens, leaving over 100,000 Indians H-4 dependent children at risk of aging out and facing steep legal fights to stay. By February, 18,000 Indians were deported under the new Laken-Riley rules, costing the country $500 million in lost wages and remittances while straining ties with New Delhi. Now, March brought the end to automatic H-4 employment extensions, forcing full re-vetting that slammed about 200,000 Indian spouses with income drops and job hunts. In July, one big beautiful bill slabbed new fee and a remittance tax, siphoning $1 to $3 billion from Indian flows and offshoring about 10,000 jobs back home. And by September, hundreds and thousands of H-1B visa hike under Project Firewall, paired with the brutal audits and denials, slashed Indian student numbers from 300,000 to barely 180,000. This triggered layoffs for tech workers who once saw the US as a launchpad. The big question that we're asking tonight: is the tragedy being used to push Donald Trump's pre-planned hardline agenda? And what do these changes mean for Indian tech workers, students and families in the US? And more importantly, can India-US ties withstand this, or will it force a reset in relationship, as has been witnessed for many more months now, up until today? Joining me on the show is Ambassador Veena Sikri, a former Indian diplomat. Also with me is Adit Kothari, foreign affairs expert and geopolitical expert, live from London, and Vishweshwar Reddy Kalawala, founder and chairman of Global Telangana Association. Thank you very much, all of you, for taking time out. I want to come to you first. Adit, what are you making of those sweeping remarks of Donald Trump? And when Trump says, I want to stop migrants from third world countries, what does he really mean?
I think when we look at Trump's electoral rhetorics, the immigration aspect of things has been, his North Star right from 2015 onwards. And that is what he predominantly built his re-election campaign around as well. because he rallied strongly about, how the migrants are coming in and eating pets and, creating ruckus in society. And as a consequence, they are the real danger to a Western liberal society at large. And that is the sort of electoral playbook that he's playing. We've got to bear in mind that, the midterms are only 11 months to go for now. And, his election ratings are, I wouldn't say at an all-time low, but at a fairly low point, polling at roughly anywhere between 38 to 41%. And the MAGA number is shrinking enormously as well. So he's trying to consolidate his position again, and he's using Thanksgiving as a platform to send out a message that, Thanksgiving is predominantly seen from a very Christian sort of a perspective. And he's trying to say that, we should look at our ethnicity now. We should look at our cultural civilization now, which is predominantly on the basis of a sort of a white Christian country. And, the third world country is basically trying to destroy America from within as a Trojan horse. So he's sending out a clear message to his electorate rather than any specific country as such, Shweta.
All right, Ambassador Veena Sikri, would you agree that that's perhaps the objective that's driving Trump's rhetoric and rant, if I may say so? And how does he, or anyone for that matter, define who falls in the third world category? Is he going to go by the UN definition, United Nations, whose very existence he has challenged?
No, I think, well, I agree to one extent that he is playing to his own lobby. He is playing to MAGA, the MAGA who got him the Make America Great Again lobby that got him elected. And, that lobby also has been falling off because of various actions or lack of it by President Trump. But this particular instance is the Afghan national who killed or attacked two National Guardsmen very near to the White House. This actually comes quickly upon another incident in June of this year, which took place in Boulder, Colorado. And actually, when that incident in Boulder, Colorado took place, also a terrorist incident, at that time, President Trump had announced a list of countries. He'd actually announced a list of about 19 countries, and he said, we're going to stop people coming in from these countries. And these countries included countries like Somalia, Sudan, also it had, Myanmar, it had Afghanistan, it had Eritrea. A lot of countries were there on this list at that time. I think the list that he's referring to now is really that list that he had in mind at that time. But that I do not know what kind of executive orders were issued after that to take action on what he declared was that list. So this is where there's a lot of uncertainty. So it's only country by country, whether, when you go to a visa application, the American embassy in your country, then you know whether you are on that list or not. That list existed in June, July. And now he's talking about the same list. But what are the executive orders concerning the list are not very clear. I think that the question of countries like India being on the list is not there, but actually countries like Pakistan, which were there on that list in his first term as president, are no longer on that list. So it seems to be a very fluid list. But I think much more than this listing, and I think that we will know very well, we do know that on many issues that you have listed, Trump has already changed his position. Like even on the visas, he's saying that, now we need them for some time and then we will see what to do, etc. So we're not really, it's such a fluid day-to-day situation that whether this is going to affect the employment or not is to be seen, and we have to keep a very close eye on that. But what I really do worry about is that between President Trump's pronouncements and the MAGA approach, there is so much targeted anti-Indianism that's coming out, even attacking people like Vice President J.D. Vance's wife, and talking about her, and when she wanted to give Diwali greetings, she was trolled and so on. So this trying to use or this attack on immigrants and people who are not white and Christian, has brought a particular focus on the anti-Indianism, and this I think we have to work hard to make sure it does not become anything long-term.
Absolutely. The MAGA's fusion with white supremacy anti-Hindu narrative, which is now increasingly coming to light, given, in fact, J.D. Vance's own response that we discussed earlier, where he said, I would want my wife to convert at some point if she agrees with me. But coming back to the point of conversation here, which is, Trump's rhetoric, and when he says he wants to completely ban migrants from any third world country, Mr. Reddy, is there any impact on India at all and ties with India at all? Because according to the UN definition, India does not fall in the third world category.
Yes, India does not fall under third category. And also I just want to share what happened. I live in Washington, D.C. currently. I've been here for past 27 years in the United States. And we run an immigration law firm in the United States. The people are coming from various countries to the United States. So we work with the Department of Homeland Security, we work with the Department of State, we work with the Department of Labor. So we know the real immigration problems in the United States. So what is happening is here, any issue we have to look at it in two ways. So one, his primary concern is legal and illegal. So there is a legal immigration and there is an illegal immigration. So this is happened too much. And the last administration, the Democratic governance, they pumped so many people from various countries into United States for asylees. So those some of the people are they don't know the ground rules of this country. They know they don't know the law of the land, and they have to follow the rules of this country. And historically there is 11 million illegal immigrants in the United States in various visas, where their visas are expired, where their visas are nullified, or their status are no more valid. And some of the people who coming from the South America, various countries, they use Mexico border, and they come into the country and they stay in the country for many years, number of years, without paying taxes, without paying those kind of things. And those areas he is primarily focused. And his interest is country interest. Any country president will look at as a country's interest, right? So in that context, he is talking. And that is need of the hour for him to, in politics, political language, he is a shrewd businessman, and especially, how the migration happening. And, here, this particular episode, what happened in our homeland, my hometown in Washington, D.C., killing is not a welcoming act. Okay, no matter it is, there is a law of the land.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's not welcome anywhere. But Mr. Reddy, I also have to more pointedly ask you, the suspect who's an Afghan national, he was an asylum, he took asylum. So he was, in fact, would it be fair to say he was a legal migrant?
What happened is, while Biden administration, they actually brought a lot of people. You might have all the people saw that in the flights. Last flight also, so many people with they came into the country.
Who were promised asylum in case the U.S. administration starts withdrawing from Afghanistan.
Yes, the thing is, if you come into the country, there are types of, I will tell you, here, even you come on legal immigration, if you are violating of the national interest, if you are violating national security, you are violating the national immigration laws, like a National Immigration Act, Immigration Act, according to the rules, if you violate, there is every possibility they send them back to the home country. Historically, especially Trump 2.0 is they are doing right now. And here, especially some of the where Democratic parties major presence, in Chicago, in California, wherever there are more, they are seriously looking at, these immigrants coming from Afghanistan or various countries, he did mention about that Minneapolis Act, right? The Minneapolis, people are there, they're in Dallas, Texas, they are, planning to have a Sharia law. And now the New York City also, we have a new mayor, now, they are coming out with a different ideology. So here, this country welcome immigrants from globally. Okay?
Right.
There is no secondary, this is an immigrant country.
All right, understood, sir. But, my question therefore is, are we mixing, way too many narratives? And perhaps Adit can come in here. Adit, is it about legal immigrants? Is it about illegal immigrants? Is it about religion? Because the last time Donald Trump talked about restricting nationals from certain countries was primarily a list of Islamic nations. So is it a religious problem? What exactly is the problem here? Because it appears that we're mixing far too many narratives here.
And I think he's doing this deliberately because he wants sort of ambiguity when it comes to sort of immigration, which is why he conflates both legal and illegal immigration. When he talks about how much benefits and sort of medical aid goes into satisfying and sort of looking after the immigrant population. He talks about the 150 billion annually that the United States basically spends, but he doesn't talk about the 500 billion that the legal immigrants actually pay in as taxes on an annual basis. So he deliberately calculates that sort of a narrative to ensure that he can play to his gallery, as Ambassador Sikri basically pointed out, and that has been his electoral cycle, because you have to see the kind of opposition that Trump is facing, with Jeffrey Epstein files, rising inflation, where basic amenities are not reaching beyond affordable lines by Americans on the sort of lower strata of the income lines. So, how does he actually
Cost of living is still very high. Inflation is still...
Yeah, the living standards are very high.
Absolutely.
So the only way he can actually create some sort of counter narrative is to rally troops behind illegal immigration and sorry, not even illegal immigration, but immigration. So basically say that, immigrants are the bane of American society at large. Shweta.
All right. Ambassador Veena Sikri, what sort of, implication are we looking at as far as migration restriction is concerned from perhaps African nations, South Asian nations and Latin American nations? What sort of impact are we looking at, of these restrictions vis-a-vis, long-term impact and short-term impact on the US? And more importantly, when we say that immigrants are going to be totally restricted, what's the impact on vulnerable population, people who are looking at the US perhaps as asylum seekers, which is what the case was with the Afghan refugees as well?
Yeah, well, I think that now the question of asylum seeking, that is almost, I think, out of the question now, because there's so much uncertainty about it. That's not going to happen, because even to get in, people from, let's say from Punjab, we know so many families who spent, 40 lakhs each or more just to take that Dunki route and reach there. And they've been deported within less than a few months, And also there've been the case of the two truck drivers who had accidents and people died in those accidents, and then that led to the focus on issuing driver's license to them, which was against the rules, and the government of California was blamed for that. So there is so much uncertainty on this, and I see that really illegal immigration has completely dropped, as you have shown yourself in the figures. And even legal channels like students, for example, that too has seen a great drop in the number of students wanting to go there. And I'd like to say that even tourists, many people don't even want to go there as tourists, because there's so many stories about people being treated badly at the entry point. Even if they have legal visa, then they're questioned, because now the ICE officials have been given so many powers that they can be very arbitrary. And I've also known cases in Delhi where people's visas are being arbitrarily refused, which never used to happen, at least with American visas. And there was a very high acceptance rate for applicants for American visas, even though it's a very long process. But once you got through the whole thing, there was a high acceptance rate. But of late, there's not been such a high acceptance rate, and people's requests for visas are being turned down. So at the moment, we are in a real period of flux, a period of uncertainty, because even if you think you know the rules, then suddenly comes this Thanksgiving statement by President Trump, and then it'll have its own implication, because then the officers have to show that they're implementing what he said in his Thanksgiving statement. But how is it going to be implemented? It's very difficult for a regular applicant to know. So there's so much uncertainty. Tourists are going down. I think we have to just be very careful and wait and watch. I'm sure our government is taking up this issue at every turn. So we want clarity. We want a clear situation.
100%.
Clear statement as to what is allowed, which are the categories allowed, and which are the ones which are going to be. So I think this is something that our government must be requesting, that we need clarity, and we are prepared to abide. Of course, America is within its rights to adopt its own rules, but I think what we do say is there should not be discrimination. And the same rules, not like in the case of purchase of Russian oil, you're putting an extra 25% on India, but China is purchasing huge amounts of Russian oil with no additional
implication.
tariff.
Absolutely, or for that matter, EU with no implication at all as far as Russian oil is concerned. Mr. Reddy, the Indian origin green card holders, people who have the American dream, naturalized citizens, definitely will be worried today, with the kind of rhetoric that's come out of Donald Trump. Should they be worried? What should be the next course of action for those people who are hoping to either go to the US to study or who are likely to apply for an H-1B visa? What should they be doing right now?
Typically, Indian nationals, I don't think there is a big issue. So as you mentioned, either they come on F1 visa, they come on H1B, or they can become a green card holder, and at a later point of time they can become natural Asian citizenship. So everything is intact. There is no implications or no executive order against to this. So only thing is now, how much loyal to this country, how much security breach Indians are doing in this country, how much they are misusing the immigration laws is the matter. How much site audits happening on H1B program is matter. How much is misusing of the green card, family-based green cards. Those are matters. But otherwise, the country is
Mr. Reddy, I also have to ask you, especially coming from the point of view of students who are applying to the US this year, something, as common as criticizing Israel for atrocities in Palestine could also mean that they are violating their visa rules. So it's become very hard, don't you think?
Yes, there is two ways of look at it, the ideology and, the laws. Especially, Indians, what I observed in the past 27 years of my US life. So, there are a number of issues arise and they are, nullified later point of time. And, usually visa, different presidents for their term. And, during their term, Republican government, they have a different ideology, and, Democratic governance, they have a different ideology. And especially Indian folks, majorly they are into F1 visa, majorly they are into H1B visa. And, some, percentage of people are coming on B1, B2. And, rest of the visas are, various visas we have, but we don't use that much. EB5 visas are there, but they're majorly into, China, they are using. Okay. Investment based. Trump administration is seriously looking at, they are looking people who has great ability, great talent, extraordinary ability, or they have a lot of abundant of money where they can come back and invest in this country to rural areas, where the regional centers where they can invest money and create new employment. So here he's typically is a shrewd businessman, right? He look at it. Anyone who come inside the country, they have to contribute something. Either you have your talent or you have treasure. So the talent and treasure need to live in this country. So that's his perception, and he is going on to it. But basically, especially Indian community, Indian diaspora in the country, we are creating great sensations on creating greater wealth and greater employment. And we have number of CEOs. Our number of CEOs are in the Silicon Valley, number of company CEOs are Indians.
Absolutely.
So they also play a vital role in immigration policy in White House. Most recently, Trump administration's second term, he invited all the CEOs for a lunch or dinner time. So he did talk to number of companies CEOs and talked about the immigration laws, and this called it a business immigration. So there are two types. Family based is immigration is different from business immigration. So our folks are majorly into that H1B program.
That's right. But I wonder if they have any sway at all on what Donald Trump needs and what Donald Trump wants, because for all we know, he's also been pushing Apple to shift manufacturing out of India. That's also been a quest here. So before I let you all go, Adit Kothari, one last question to you. Do you see this as mere rhetoric, or do you see hard policies, executive orders coming soon as far as third world countries is concerned?
I don't really think there's hard policies going to be coming straight away. Because, like Ambassador Sikri also pointed out, this is something which he spoke during the last attack as well, but there was no executive orders as such. I think he's trying to calibrate his rhetorics very carefully, ensuring that, that while he reaches out to his electorate, At the same time, he's careful of not antagonizing media and media narratives against him, which will basically isolate him completely from a global standpoint and from the so-called educated population of the United States, which do not want to get entangled in the sort of racist and bigotry side of Trump's politics.
All right. Ambassador Veena Sekhri, Adit Kothari, as well as Vishweshwar Reddy Kalavala. Thank you very much, all of you, for taking time out. We continue to track all those details emerging as far as US President Donald Trump's angry remarks and angry social media post on the backdrop of that violence that unfolded in an outside White House, very close to White House, in which at least one trooper, the National Guard trooper, is dead and other is fighting for his life. And this has triggered angry reactions, of course, from the president, suggesting that a migration of all kinds will completely be banned from third world countries. And that is a rhetoric for now, until, of course, hard policy measures and executive orders come by the way of President's office. But we'll, of course, have to wait and watch out. That's all we have in your interest. Thank you very much for watching.
खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
सर, वाटर प्रूफिंग के लिए बेस्ट है।
वेंकी जी, एक छोटा सा गिफ्ट बिरला ओपस एश्योरेंस देने के लिए।
ऐसा क्या है इसमें?
1 साल में वाटर प्रूफिंग को कुछ भी हुआ तो वापस करके देंगे।
वापस करके देंगे?
वो भी फ्री। पेंटिंग में पहली बार बिरला ओपस एश्योरेंस। रजिस्टर करो birlaopus.com पर।
कुछ भी खा नहीं पा रहा हूँ, बहुत अपसेट हूँ।
Take a date, not bites.
नो एडेड शुगर, प्रिजर्वेटिव के बिना। डेट्स, बादाम, पिस्ता, काजू और शहद से तैयार किया गया लायन डेट्स नट बाइट्स।
Lion date, not bites.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9, English news as it should be.
Viewers, the Enforcement Directorate